For years, many people have argued that Donald Trump's victories were driven mostly by the economy. Rising prices, inflation, and frustration with Washington were often presented as the biggest reasons voters supported him. But one professor says that explanation ignores a much deeper truth, and his comments have sparked a heated national debate. During a live discussion, Professor Glaude challenged the idea that economics alone explains Trump's support. He argued that millions of Americans knowingly chose a convicted felon over a qualified Black woman, and that this decision cannot simply be dismissed as frustration over the cost of groceries or gas.
People voted because their life's too damn expensive. And it was here, and
they voted for, you're telling me, Stephanie, that all of these people who believe that their lives are, that bread is too high and eggs are too high, that they voted for a convicted fella, a guy who said we can grab the pea.
I think that a lot.
They voted for this guy.
I'm not defending it, but I think there are tons of people that don't pay attention to, and I'm not defending it, don't pay attention to politics at all. But while we live in the most prosperous country in the world, people are saying life's not fair. I'm not doing well. My son's still living in the basement. I can't seem to get a job. I don't like the status quo. I'm voting for something else. And
I love you to life.
I love you.
But I do not believe that. I cannot believe that. And the reason I think you believe it is because you don't want to believe that that's what's really motivating them. It's always the case. People don't want to believe what the country actually is, because if they believe it, they're going to have to confront what's in them. I don't believe that. They voted for a crook, a person who they know is stealing from, just doing everything to undermine the so-called country that they love. And then they're telling us the BS that it's economics. We know that's not true.
According to him, refusing to confront the role race plays in American politics only allows the same patterns to continue. Glaude also claimed that many policies being promoted today are not just about immigration or law enforcement, but reflect deeper fears about America's changing demographics.
I'm talking about what happens to you if you've barely escaped suicide or death or madness or yourself. You watch your children growing up, and no matter what you do, you are powerless. You are really powerless against the force of the world that is out to tell your child that he has no right to be alive, and no amount of liberal jargon, no amount of talking about how well and how far we have progressed does anything to soften or to point out any solution to this dilemma. In every generation, ever since Negroes have been here, Baldwin writes, every Negro mother and father has had to face that child and try to create in that child some way of surviving this particular world. Some way to make the child who will be despised not despise himself. I don't know what the Negro problem means to white people, Baldwin writes, but this is what it means to the Negro. What does it mean to try to construct an idea of the self in a country that is organized in every single way on the grounds of the value gap? Not because people are mean-spirited, but it's because it's in the very DNA of the country. And this is what makes addressing the problem, I'm leaving my notes now, this is what makes addressing the problem of white supremacy, of racial inequality in this country so difficult, because we refuse to look the ugliness of who we are squarely in the face and dare to imagine ourselves differently. This is hard work. This is hard. The value gap isn't sustained by loud racists. The value gap is sustained by all of us. All of us. You don't need white people for white supremacy to work. When I'm in New Jersey and I'm driving down Stuyvesant Avenue in Trenton, I hold a set of generalizations about the people who occupy that particular neighborhood. It's known as Little Iraq. I keep my head on a swivel. Right? There's a kind of particular fear that gets generalized, is generalized to an entire population, that informs a set of assumptions about how I interact with them. And those generalizations have policy implications. We are socialized and habituated into believing, right, certain things about certain folks. Right? I write about this in the text. Nancy DiTomaso at Rutgers, a social scientist, she did a series of interviews of white working class folk in Cleveland, in Ohio, and in Tennessee, and in Jersey, I believe. And she said she was interviewing these workers, and one worker said, I'm sorry, black people are just lazy. They just want a handout. You've heard this before. It's been informing public discourse since I can remembering. And they don't want to work hard for anything. And it turned out that his father was close friends with the union boss who hooked him up with a job. Another interviewer, right? I'm sorry to say they're just lazy. They don't want to work. It turns out that not only his friend gave him the test that he needed to take for his job, gave him the answers to the test. And what Nancy's trying to suggest in this moment is, right, not that there is some, right, overt racism that's happening. People are just hooking up their friends and families, right? That it's what she calls opportunity hoarding, that racial inequality actually is perpetuated through social networks, right? And because we're so deeply a segregated society, our social networks are typically, 75% of our social networks are 100% homogeneous. So opportunities pass through certain networks that do not pass through others. Right? I'm just helping out my child. I'm not being racist. Right? I'm just helping out my neighbor. I'm not being racist. I said something jokingly to a friend the other night. I said, if we want to solve black on black crime in the United States, we just need to integrate neighborhoods. And they didn't quite get it. I said, some of you didn't get it either, right? Most crime takes place, right, because of proximity. White on white crime, 83% of crime that happens in white communities happens between white and unwhite people. 91% happens because our neighborhoods are segregated. If we all move together, then we'll just be criminal with each other. Racial habits. The value gap distorts who we take ourselves to be. It blocks the way to the formation of the kinds of people democracies require. I was just talking about with Reverend Hart Anderson about Abraham Lincoln's rejection of the monstrous injustice of slavery, but his commitment to the belief that white people were superior than black people, and how those commitments blocked the way from him becoming the kind of human being his idea of democracy required.
He pointed to what he described as a long history of avoiding honest conversations about racism, privilege, and inequality, arguing that these issues continue to shape politics in ways many people refuse to acknowledge.
You know, America's not unique in its sins as a country. We're not unique in our evils, to be honest with you. I think where we may be singular is our refusal to acknowledge them. And the legends and myths we tell about our inherent, goodness to hide and cover and conceal so that we can maintain a kind of willful ignorance that protects our innocence. See, the thing is that when the Tea Party was happening, we were saying, pundits, oh, it's just about economic populism. It's not about race. When people knew, social scientists were already writing that what was driving the Tea Party were anxieties about demographic shifts, that the country was changing, that they were seeing these racially ambiguous babies on Cheerios commercials, that the country wasn't quite feeling like it was a white nation anymore. And people were screaming from the top of their lungs, this is not just simply economic populism. This is the ugly underbelly of the country. See, the thing is this, and I'll say this, and I'll take the hit on it. There are communities that have had to bear the brunt of white Americans confronting the danger of their innocence. And it happens every generation. So somehow we have to kind of, oh my God, is this who we are? And just again, here's another generation of babies. Think about it. A 2-year-old had his bones broken by two parents trying to shield him from being killed. A woman who has been married to this man for as long as I've been on the planet almost, lost her husband. For what? And so what we know is that the country has been playing politics for a long time on this hatred. We know this. So it's easy for us to place it all on Donald Trump's shoulders. It's easy for us to place Pittsburgh on his shoulders. It's easy for me to place Charlottesville on his shoulders. It's easy for us to place El Paso on his shoulders. This is us. And if we're going to get past this, we can't blame it on him. He's a manifestation of the ugliness that's in us. I've had the privilege of growing up in a tradition that didn't believe in the myths and the legends because we had to bear the brunt of them. Either we're going to change, Nicole, or we're going to do this again and again, and babies are going to have to grow up without mothers and fathers, uncles and aunts, friends, while we're trying to convince white folk to finally leave behind a history that will maybe, or embrace a history that might set them free from being white. Finally.
ICE has become the largest federal law enforcement agency for one reason only. Its charge is to make America white again. And I think that's really important for us to insist upon. This is not about violent criminals. This is not about safety. This is about trying to address demographic shifts. Trying to address demographic shifts that disrupt a particular understanding or particular view of the American polity. And I think it's important for us to begin to report it in this way. It's not about Stephen Miller and his quota. It's not about Holman cosplaying Bull Connor. It's really about what is driving this immigration policy. And I think it's deeply, and I think I know, it's profoundly racist. And it's rooted in an ideology that's tied to, bound up with white national.
Not everyone on the panel agreed. Some insisted that everyday financial struggles push voters toward Trump, saying many Americans simply wanted change.
Okay, I think I've finally realized why white people love Donald Trump so much. As I was watching the response to the blue wave yesterday and also the response to the No Kings protests. And I'm going to make up a term here, white plot against us-ism. It's a close cousin of white victimhood. And the idea is that when things go right for us, white folks, that's perfectly normal. That's how things should go naturally. But when things don't go right for us, it's like someone is obviously plotting against us. Usually, if you watch Fox News, it's George Soros. I mean, how a 95-year-old guy is able to organize every protest, every caravan out of Central America, everything that goes wrong for Republicans, somehow Soros did it. But the point is that Trump tapped into this white grievance so deeply. And at the core, it's a control thing. We don't feel comfortable submitting to any authority that's not white. Therefore, when non-white authorities rise to power, like during Reconstruction after the Civil War, like President Obama, we always see massive white backlash, which is what led to the rise of Trump in the first place. And this is a major thread that we trace in our documentary, The Sins of Our Fathers, Race, Religion, and the Rise of Trump, because until we learn to share the spotlight with people who are not like us, we will never break free of the cycle of hate in this nation.
Let me be very clear when I say this. They do politics for power. We do politics for representation.
I want to know how it is you voted for Donald Trump when you're so into facts, because his entire campaign is not based in facts. It was all based in propaganda and emotion.
I voted for Donald Trump for one reason only. His policies, if implemented, would slow the dispossession of whites in the United States.
You all are arguing and nitpicking about qualifications, and if qualifications were on the table, Trump would have never been president-elect at 45, nor now at 47. There's a different game that's being played, and y'all keep missing the point. At the helm of YT America is positioning in power and self-preservation. And let me speak to the global majority as a Black American who has lived in Europe, in Asia, in Africa, in the Middle East. All of us are getting wiped out off the chessboard. I am seeing my folks get on here making fun of other subjugated groups as though we have some kind of economic or capital power, as though we have some political power to even change our very own conditions, and we don't. Whether you consider yourself FBA or ADOS, you do not have the numbers to keep up the power dynamics in order to defeat the oppressor. Immigrant community, to the front. Africans and Caribbeans, respectfully, no matter what it is that you consider yourself outside of the walls of the United States of America, you are Black. when you enter inside of the border, and they will treat you as such. Google Amadou Diallo in the 1990s and tell me if the police thought that he was African or Igbo or Yoruba or Jamaican. They didn't care. My Arab brothers and sisters, no matter which way you slice it, you are not white. And as you have seen with generation after generation of what it is that has been happening to your people at home and abroad, get a clue. No matter what wealth and power you hold outside of the walls of the United States, you do not hold it in the United States. And that goes for the Asian and Desi community as well. My Hispanic and Latinidad community to the front. You can I know black, I Dominican until your eyeballs turn gray, but you too will never be deemed them. They will continue to colonialize your home, and no matter how much you abandon your language or your tradition, you will still never be them and never be seen as such. The reason why people have coined the phrase global majority is because there are more of us subjugated and oppressed folks than there are of them. And they know this. And as opposed to us coming together as a global community, understanding that we are all in the same fight because we are all fighting for the same thing, we are nitpicking at language, race and ethnicity, seasoning of food, who created hip hop, although none of us financially benefit from it. In this quest for power, we have failed.
What's the solution for the approximately 53% of white women who voted for the decrepit Cheeto for a third time? Are racism benefits so hard to kick? This is a really good question. I think that they don't realize what it's like on the other side of white supremacy, the patriarchy, and capitalism. I think they struggle to conceptualize of how the world would work without those systems of oppression controlling everything that they do. And I think that they are fully deluded in the belief that they benefit from those systems. Just because they manage to carve out a small measure of security, more than people of color have, because they get a little bit of proximity to white men in power. They think that's a win, that's a victory. They think they've arrived. They have these blinders on where they cannot see how limited not only their worldview is, but their freedoms are. And they falsely view those blinders as protection.
But Glaude rejected that explanation, arguing that economic hardship alone cannot explain the choices made. Whether you agree with his conclusions or not, one thing is clear. His remarks have reignited one of the most controversial debates in America. What truly motivated millions of voters in the last election?